Hey Mod Maniacs, Mobad and you here again with another native Workbench tutorial. I forgot to mention in the last video that if you are new to mod making, then please check out the tutorial series by Metiri. The link is in the comment section. He has a fantastic set of videos that will walk you through your first mod in detail, and that was the series that I used, so I highly recommend it. In the last video we did some basic overview. So in this one, we're going to try a little bit more complex example that lets you build code that you'll be able to reuse in different ways, sort of a pattern, okay? So say we're working on a custom cutscene, and you want to put the subtitles at the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to start with a little code snippet here, and I'll explain what it does in a second here. I'll just put it into, I'll put it in the immediate window right now. What we're doing is simply taking the scripthook.net version of text drawing. I like it because it's only one line. The string is here. Putting it at an arbitrary point because I don't know quite yet where I want it to go. That's the whole point of this. Point 4 represents the scale factor of the draw. So let's just give it a shot here. If I push run, actually, if you look in the upper left-hand corner of the screen here, you will see something briefly flashing. Now we know from the earlier overview that certain things need to be placed in the ontick, and sure enough, text is one of those things. So we're going to take it out of here, move it up here, and enable it, and there it is. Now you can see it's just sitting there up in the upper left hand corner, but that's not where we really want it. Okay, one of the pains of placing graphic elements in a general is the position. So without a drag or drop editor, you have to kind of guess the numbers and then you tweak them. And but with a little extra code here, we're going to make that a whole lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and paste a block of code and explain what it does. Okay, so a little bit more here, and I'll put it in. Let me get that off. Put that here. Okay, so so you're going to see something interesting here. This construct, where it's prefixed by native Workbench, all the basic data types are represented as static values. That's what you get out of the box with this, and that's really a nice, very handy way to have things persist beyond just an ontick loop. It's very nice to not have just local variables, but these are simply variables that you can use throughout your coding, and they will stay persisted as long as the game's running. Okay. So what this does is pretty basic. It's basically just initializing a bunch of values here, but the interesting part is it's looking for key presses, and the standard keys we use all the time. I've added E and Q, and what these represent are basically ways to navigate that text around the screen so that you can place it where you want it. Now, it's the same text on the bottom that we're using, the same UI draw, except there's two variables here that come out of whether or not you're pressing the key and incrementing or decrementing values. So let's give this a shot, and there it is in the upper left hand corner. But if I now press W, S, A, and D down, you can see our text nicely moving into a position where we would want it, which is probably about there. Okay, so you can see without much code at all, you have emulated some of the properties of a graphics editor. I'm just moving WSAD here. Okay. So so now, of course, you would want to see what the final value was. So let's put an output statement here. That is, will just return the value of the two coordinates, the x and y of the position and the scale factor. Okay, I'll recycle that, and there it is. As you can see, we now have output. I can still move it around. You can see it changing. We haven't messed with the scale. Here's what the scale changes look like. About 0.4 around there probably looks right. So at the end, basically you have your text where you want it. Now, normally you don't just put absolute values in for text. You want to take into consideration the screen coordinates, the screen resolution at the time you're placing the text, but you're still going to need some offsets. You're still going to have to know off center by how many pixels. So it's pretty nice to have this positioned. In fact, you could put that formula right in here. I'm not going to do it, but that would give you the absolute numbers you would need for the offsets, in addition to having calculated with the screen resolution. Okay, so that's it for this section. This next section, we're going to talk cameras. Cameras are extremely important, obviously, but one of the interesting things about the main camera, which is the gameplay camera, one of the very first mods that came out made a change to the level of depth in the gameplay camera. So that just gives you an example of what could be very annoying very quickly. Okay, so there's a lot that you can do with cameras, but when we talk about the gameplay camera, it's the one that you're basically looking through when you're not in a cutscene or in the editor, Rockstar editor. It's a boom-mounted camera with fixed at one end, basically the player's head, and then on a pole at the end, it's a flex-mounted camera. But the net effect is it stays relative to the character. It is attached to the character, and it is rigged to always look at the character. So let's just bring him back in here. And oh yeah, I know. Calm down there, buddy. All right, so here it is, our default camera, right? Now, imagine what's going on here. Like, what's not moving is his head. So there's this boom pole connected to his head, and the camera we're looking through is connected at the other end, and it's trained on him, meaning anywhere he is, the camera will rotate to adjust to him. Now, the gameplay camera typically is set just over the right shoulder of the subject, or in this case the character, and it's used in a lot of places, so you really don't want to mess with it. If you're not going to mess with the gameplay camera, then you need another one, and very nice that the API lets you create as many as you want, probably to some degree. And what we're after here is what is called the rendering or script camera type. Okay, scripting camera. So let's go ahead and create that. We put it in any position and rotation, but we're going to use the coordinates from the gameplay camera. Okay, so let's go ahead and just try to create one here. It's a couple of lines here to paste. And it's raining. All right, that's okay. I don't care. Let me get this out of here because we're not doing tick work right now. So let's take a look. What are we doing? Here we are again using the internal storage of native Workbench, where we will store the camera about to create. And it's pretty simple. We're using the .NET version, which is create the camera and use the position and rotation from the gameplay camera. Okay. What that basically does is puts it in the same position. Once you create the camera, it's not enough to switch to it. You must then call the render native to put the camera live and in action. So these are the two statements you need. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And nothing seems to have happened. But believe it or not, we are now looking through a different camera. We are looking through the script camera. And to prove that, I'm just going to make him walk forward, and you can see what happens. Notice that he is walking away, but not taking the camera with him. Okay? So that's to show you now that the camera we just created is in a fixed position. We're basically where the game camera left off. So we now have him in front of us, away from the camera that we've created. Okay. Now watch this. Okay, this is the fun part. Okay. Hey Franklin, come on back, buddy. What are you doing? Back here. Come on. Come on, run. Run. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Where are you going? Where are you go? Come on. Come on. Over here. Over here. Over here. Over here. Come on. Stop it. Stop playing. That was fun, huh? So, how the hell did I do that? Well, remember, I did not touch the gameplay camera. And the mouse is connected to the gameplay camera. So, if you can imagine that me moving the mouse, moving the gameplay camera, and he just trails behind the gameplay camera. It's a very powerful effect here because I am now controlling my character from afar by not touching the gameplay camera, but simply looking through the camera that I just created, which is the rendering camera, usually called the rendering camera. Okay. Now we can switch back to. We have to be able to switch back to our gameplay camera. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll show you some code to do that. To do that, basically pretty simple. We're just going to say that our we're going to tell our current camera, which is our script camera, not to render by putting a 0 in here. And this is interesting. World destroy all cameras. It's kind of a misleading. It only destroys cameras that you create. You can't destroy the gameplay camera. That would be kind of devastating. Basically, it would all just go black, and then what do you do? So by running this, I'm going to kill the camera we just created, the one above it, and it'll automatically switch back to the gameplay camera. So there you go. Now we're back to gameplay. Okay. So that was pretty interesting. I'll show you again how seamless this can be. I'm I'm going to just have him follow. What I'll do here is I'll just get in a position to do this and just show you. Okay, so this is what it looks like with the gameplay camera. Okay, I'm going to turn on the script camera, and there he goes. So there's the whole deal behind that. Go back to gameplay, and we're back where we were. All right, so okay, so now let's do something with this this new camera, this script camera. All right, so something practical would be to mobilize the camera that we created. So I'm going to go ahead and put in code that you've seen in the previous example with the text. It's very similar. Basically, again, using the keys. In this case, I am going to use the numpad keys so that I don't mess with the motion of the gameplay camera. For good reason, right? We still want to have the availability of that because it's obviously very powerful to be able to do that. So I have to create the camera first. Let's just do that. Okay, we have gameplay. Yep, we have gameplay. Now, by using an ontick, just like we did with text, I'm just basically taking the position of our rendering camera and giving you the ability to move it wherever you want. Now I'm just hitting the number pad 1, which is the Z coordinate up, and there's X and Y. It's pretty rough, but it gives you the idea now. We are now moving our scene camera, or our rendering camera. Get a little higher. Pretty good. And just like before, I didn't touch that gameplay camera. So there he is. So now we're craned up with the ability to mobilize the camera. Now, of course, this is very flat. It is a cinematic technique just to go flat. Sure, definitely useful. But look at his head. This is so funny. When you get past the rendering distance, watch his head. He goes from like an afro to a buzz cut. It's hilarious. There he goes. Boop, burp, burp. Let me see if I make him walk into the frame. He comes back. Yep, pop the head right in there. That was pretty funny. Okay, bye, hair. Gook. Anyway, that. So this is only, of course, the 3 degrees out of the possible 6. When I say that, I mean, we have up, down, left, right, and then we have pitch, pitch, roll, and yaw as the other 3. So that's something good to know. If you're new to modding, you're going to be able to move something into a position with 3 coordinates, but if you really want to place it, you need the extra 3, so you have a total of 6. Let's go ahead and add some code to mess with the rotation. Okay, sort of building up as we go here. Let me just put this in as a whole unit. Okay, so what I'm going to do something a little clever here. I'm going to use the numpad 0 as a toggle, and I'm just going to say, you know, if you're not pressing the numpad, it's going to go default by position. But if you are pressing the 0, you will now allow the camera to rotate. And all I'm doing is checking for changed here, and it's the same idea whether I'm working position or rotation. So let's go ahead and cycle that. Back to our game again. Okay, there's our normal. But if I hold numpad 0, as you can see, I can now change pitch, and I can change. Now this is an interesting concept here. The way it's set up for axes on a camera, this is actually the roll axis, which is really kind of weird. I don't see too many effects using the roll. So we want tilt, and we want pan. Okay, so those are our most combined with forward, left, and right. Now I'm just messing around with the controls, the keys here. Obviously, you can have a much better, smoother scripting for cinematic effects, but this is just to demonstrate that this camera is highly movable, and you can write code to move it in any degree you want. Combinations. At some point I'm going to figure out how to rig it to look at the character, just like gameplay, except I want control over the position. So I want to put it somewhere, but I don't have to maintain where the camera looks. I know I can do that. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Believe me, I just started learning about cameras like last week. So, but anyway, you can see with just a little bit of code, doesn't take much to make this happen. Okay. So that's an example, I think, of a good use of code. It demonstrates how quickly you can work in native Workbench, and just how fast you can try stuff out and make it work. Now, right now, basically, you're saying, well, gee, okay, you're just doing what the Rockstar editor does, and and combined now with OpenCamera, which was, OpenCamera let you move the boundaries way past the rendering circle, which we call the rendering circle, which means the area of concern where it can record things that are not in the scene, which still blows my mind. But what if you're building a complex mission where scenes are complex and transitions have to be really smooth? And yeah, you can do it in post-production with the editor. It's a wonderful tool, though I don't like the UI. It's another story. But yeah, you're going to have some difficulties gluing things together. Continuity in the business is really critical, and it's very hard when you have separate clips to make continuity. So most productions will use a second unit or second camera. Well, actually, they don't even have the ability to do it in post-production like we do, which is, again, blows my mind. But the idea is you do want to rig a couple of cameras if you want some complex scenes, and I'll demonstrate that a little bit later. We're going to still evolve this this idea. Check out the Scene Director mod by Elswat, and you'll start to understand what I mean by being able to rig cameras in production. He's got a great tool. It's got a huge potential, and I have not gotten around to it yet, but I'm going to give him a buzz and see if we can get this code in there so that we can start scripting camera movement, which would be so cool that we not only script players, dialogue, but camera movement, the way it's really done in film, today, especially complex film. So now, what's interesting is, I may have not noticed, but this immediately struck me as being able to have an instant mod made just because I can do this. Okay, so let's have a little fun here. What I'm going to be working on coming out with is called the RC mod, which is RC meaning radio controlled, which is going to work something like this. You get into position with your camera, and let's go ahead and spawn a car. Doesn't matter. Nice. 9F. Okay. Now, if I go here on my second camera, remember, I have gameplay. So, and I certainly have gameplay. He's kicking the car. Okay. Take a ride around the side. Now go in the car. Okay, good. He just gets in the car, and guess what? We now have the ability to remote control our car. Yahoo! Woohoo! I essentially have a remote control car. That cool. This is totally fun. Just being able to do this is hilarious. So that about wraps it up for this video. Next video is going to be a bonus video. It's just going to be pure fun, pure craziness. Just showing some more things with Native Workbench and just messing around with some of the things you've already seen and some things you haven't. So that's it for now. I'm Mo Madden U, and I hope you like this video. Thanks.